You walk into a room feeling steady and walk out carrying someone else's despair. You did not ask for it, they did not give it to you, and yet you are holding their grief in your chest, their anxiety in your shoulders, their unspoken rage in your stomach. This is not empathy. This is something older. This is absorption. And if you're an INFJ experiencing this, you are participating in a pattern that got people killed for centuries. This video identifies what you have been carrying and why those who carried it before you were condemned. Welcome to Power and Myth. The phenomenon has a clinical name: emotional contagion, hyper-empathy, porous boundaries. But those sterile terms do not capture what it actually feels like. It feels like possession. You are in a conversation with someone who insists they are fine. Their words say fine. Their face says fine, and you are drowning in their despair. You leave the interaction exhausted, carrying something heavy that has no name, no origin, no reason to be inside you. Hours later you realize that was not yours. You absorbed it. And you cannot put it back. This is the wounded healer's inheritance. The one who takes on the pain of others, not through choice but through structure. You were built with thinner walls between self and other. Whilst most people have doors, you have membranes. Whilst they have boundaries, you have thresholds. What passes through them without their awareness passes into you and stays. Jung understood this pattern. He wrote of the wounded healer as the one whose own wound becomes the source of their gift. But what he mapped as an archetype, you experience as daily reality. You do not choose to absorb, you simply do. And the cost is this: you carry pain that no one knows you are holding. You metabolize the emotional toxicity of rooms, families, friendships, and workplaces. You are the one who feels the tension no one will name, the grief no one will cry, the rage no one will own. It moves into you, and you process it in silence, wondering why you are so tired when nothing visibly difficult happened today. This has always existed. Long before Myers-Briggs, long before personality frameworks, there were those who carried what others could not hold. They were the healers, the seers, the ones who stood between the visible world and the invisible one, mediating forces that ordinary people could not perceive. They were the shamans who journeyed into the underworld to retrieve lost souls, the medicine women who drew illness out of the body and into their own, the mystics who absorbed the spiritual poison of their communities so that others might be free of it, and they were condemned for it. The medieval witch hunts targeted women who carried this gift, healers who could sense illness before it manifested, midwives who eased suffering in ways the church could not explain, women whose presence alone seemed to calm the dying, soothe the mad, settle the disturbed. They were not killed because they were frauds. They were killed because they were real, because their capacity to absorb and transform suffering made them dangerous to systems built on control. If you can take away someone's pain without scripture, without sacrament, without institutional permission, you are a threat. The Inquisition understood what modern psychology has forgotten. Some people are built to carry what others cannot. And that gift has always been punished. The Druids carried this gift. We explored their persecution in the last video. However, the healers' persecution was even more intimate and brutal. Because whilst the Druids held cultural memory, the healers held immediate suffering. They absorbed what was too much for others to bear. And for that, they were drowned, burned, hanged, and called possessed by the very evil they were trying to transmute. If you are absorbing pain that is not yours, you are not malfunctioning. You are continuing a lineage. The question is not why this happens to you. The question is, what do you do with what you carry? Here is what most people do not understand about emotional absorption. It is not about being sensitive. Sensitivity implies a heightened reaction to stimuli. What you experience is something structurally different. You do not merely react to others' emotions. You become a container for them. The pain moves from their system into yours, and your nervous system treats it as native. This is why you cannot always distinguish between your own feelings and what you have absorbed. The boundary is not clear because functionally there is no boundary. Your introverted intuition perceives patterns beneath the surface. Your extroverted feeling attunes to the emotional field around you. Your introverted thinking tries to make sense of what you are holding, and your inferior extroverted sensing fails to ground you in your own body, your own needs, your own limits. The result is this: you are exquisitely tuned to others and almost blind to yourself. You know when someone is lying before they finish the sentence. You feel the ending of a relationship months before it occurs. You sense illness in someone's energy before diagnosis, but you do not notice that you have not eaten all day. You do not realize you are carrying someone else's anxiety as though it were your own. You do not understand why you are so depleted when all you did was sit in a room with people. This is the wounded healer's gift. And this is the shadow. You become so full of others that you forget you have a self. There is a moment that defines this pattern. You are supporting someone through their crisis. You are calm, clear, and present. You hold space for their pain with a steadiness that seems limitless. They leave feeling lighter. You are left holding everything they could not carry, and you do not know how to put it down. You have become the landfill for their unprocessed suffering. This is not metaphor. Research into mirror neurons and emotional contagion shows that empaths, particularly those with the cognitive profile of the INFJ, do not merely observe others' pain, they simulate it. Your brain lights up in the same regions as though you were experiencing the pain directly. You are not imagining their suffering, you are living it in parallel. Unlike them, you often do it without a release. They cry, you hold. They rage, you absorb. They move on. You are still carrying it 3 days later, unable to name why you feel so heavy. The wounded healer archetype is ancient, but the mechanism is neurological. You were built to do this. The question is whether you were also taught how to survive it. Most INFJs were not. You were taught to be kind, to help, to care. You were not taught that kindness without boundaries is self-destruction. You were not taught that you can hold space for someone without becoming the grave for their grief. You were not taught that absorption is not the same as healing. Absorption is the first stage, transmutation is the second, and release is the third. But if you stop at absorption, you become a reservoir of everyone else's pain with no outlet. This is what happened to the healers they condemned. They absorbed the suffering of their communities. And they had no system, no support, no language for what they carried. They were alone with it, and that aloneness made them vulnerable. It made them strange. It made them targets. The healer who carries too much begins to look haunted. They withdraw. They become difficult to reach. And a frightened society does not ask why someone is struggling. It asks what is wrong with them. And this is the shadow side that INFJs rarely speak of. You can absorb so much that you lose yourself entirely. You become a hollow vessel, a channel for others' pain, with no remaining sense of who you are beneath what you carry. This is the point at which compassion turns cold. Not because you stop caring, but because you have nothing left to give. You have been emptied out, and what remains is not a person, it is a function. The INFJ who has crossed this threshold knows it. You are still helpful, still capable, still showing up, but you are numb. You are performing care from a place of absolute depletion. You are the healer who cannot be healed because you have forgotten you are also human, also wounded, also in need. This is when the door slam happens. Not because you are cruel, but because you have finally recognized that you have been giving from an empty well, and the only way to survive is to stop. You sever the relationship. You withdraw completely. To the outside world it appears sudden. But you know the truth. You have been dying by degrees for months. The door slam is not the beginning of the end. It is the moment you finally choose yourself. So what do you do with this inheritance? You begin by naming it. You are not too sensitive. You are not broken. You are wired to perceive and absorb what others cannot. This is the wounded healer's pattern, and it is structural rather than personal. You did not fail at boundaries. You were built with different ones. The work is not to become someone else. The work is to learn how to carry this gift without being destroyed by it. This means recognizing absorption as it occurs. When you walk out of a room feeling inexplicably heavy, ask, "Is this mine?" When you are overwhelmed by an emotion that seems to have no origin in your own life, ask, "Whose is this?" The question itself creates distance. It reminds you that not everything you feel belongs to you, and that awareness is the beginning of transmutation. Transmutation is the stage most INFJs never reach because they were never taught it exists. You think your job is to absorb and hold, but the true work of the wounded healer is to absorb, transform, and release. You are not meant to be a storage unit for others' pain. You are meant to be an alchemical vessel. Pain comes in, it is witnessed, metabolized, and transformed, and then it is released, not back to the person who gave it to you, but into the earth, into movement, into creative work, into prayer, into whatever practice allows you to let it go. The healers who survived their gift understood this. They had rituals, they had practices, they had ways of clearing what they carried. Those who were condemned were often those who had no outlet, no release, no way to empty themselves. They absorbed and absorbed until they could no longer function, and then they were called mad, possessed, dangerous. You live in a world that still does not understand this, a world that valorizes endless empathy, boundless compassion, and selfless service, a world that tells you to care for everyone and calls it virtue. But care without limit is not virtue, it is self-erasure, and you do not owe the world your dissolution. You are allowed to choose yourself, you are allowed to say no, you are allowed to recognize that not every pain you can carry is yours to hold. The wounded healer's greatest lesson is this: your wound is your gift, but only if you survive it. If you are absorbed by what you absorb, the lineage ends with you. But if you learn to transmute, if you learn to release, if you learn to hold space without becoming the container, then you continue the work that healers have done for millennia. You stand between worlds, you ease suffering, you hold what others cannot, but you do not disappear in the process. This is what we explore here at Power and Myth, the ancient patterns that explain who you are, and the work of learning to live them without being destroyed by them. You are part of something here, a community of those who carry what others cannot see. If this video named what you have been holding in silence, let me know in the comments which moment landed hardest. If you wish to continue this exploration, subscribe. This is where we map the territory of being an INFJ, not as personality content, but as initiation into what you've always been. Until next time, find your power, know your myth.